tutors, mentors, and the city with your host.com.
The City Tutors presents
Tutors, mentors, and the city
with your host.com.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Kevin.com Brown, and welcome to Tutors, Mentors, and the City. And please help me in welcoming our guest for this episode, Mr. Nick Thompson. Yay!
Hey.
Nick, how are you?
I'm doing good. How are you doing? Mr.
Good.
Tom himself.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So I love the way your backdrop pops. It's nice.
Thank you. Thank you. It's my favorite color.
Yeah, and you got the fly microphone. You must be a podcaster.
I am. I do have a podcast. Yeah.
Okay. Because typically nobody has fly equipment like this. I've seen some nice backdrops, but that's an expensive microphone right there.
That it is. But it's all worth the investment if you're doing it for a noble cause.
Well, tell me about your podcast. Let's jump in with that.
Sure. So my podcast is called Conversations with Nick Thompson, and it's focused on really removing stigmas from things that divide people. So we talk a lot about mental health. Released an episode with a neuroscientist talking about chemicals in the brain and the impact that they have on your mental health. We talk about news and politics, talk about overall wellness, and just really anything that has a stigma around it or people don't quite understand. We'll talk about any of that with our guests.
Great. So help me out now. Help our viewers out. You talk about anything without a stigma or anything that has a stigma around it.
Exactly.
Sadly, yes. So explain to our viewers, why would anyone want to know what Nick Thompson has a stigma, what Nick Thompson thinks has a stigma on it?
So that's a great question. I have been very, very good at sort of connecting with people over the years, just by getting to know them and stuff like that. And when you do, you start to see like all these things that divide us. You don't actually have to be divided on. If we listen to each other and you have good conversation, you can actually come together on a lot of things that you may not have been able to come together on. So when it comes to like mental health, I grew up in a situation where I wasn't really allowed to talk about it. I didn't even know what it was until high school. And as I got older and I learned some of the important elements and lessons to help me better connect with myself and be my more authentic self, I want to use my platform to help share that with other people who may have gone through something similar. Same with like news and politics. Like I can talk to anyone on any side of the platform or the spectrum, I should say, just to have a honest conversation about not what the president's doing or not doing, or what's happening in Congress or not happening in Congress, but about real issues. And I feel that once we do that, once we have those honest conversations with each other, we can start to see each other as human beings instead of opposing sides. So that's what I think is important to me. It's important that people come together and realize we're all in this together. And I try to use my podcast to help facilitate some of those types of conversations.
Well, great. How long have you been doing the podcast?
I started the podcast we dropped it. I don't remember the exact date. It was the day after Labor Day last year. So about a half a year in. Okay.
So let me ask you this then. After post-pandemic, you start a podcast. Have your views about the world changed from pre-pandemic thoughts?
Well, a lot has happened to me since pre-pandemic and post-pandemic. So a lot of my views on a lot of things have changed. So I think when you think about pre-pandemic, all the things that we were talking about, we didn't have the lens that we have now. So we lost a lot of connection with each other. There's a lot of loneliness. It's on the rise right now. There were, people developed mental health challenges throughout the pandemic that were brand new to them that they never had before. I know I specifically have a close friend that never really had, anything but some normal anxiety and developed complete disorders over being, going through what we all went through with the pandemic. So I think a lot of things have changed. I think I've always been sensitive and emotional and empathetic, but I feel I've grown that even more now through the last couple of years. And I think everyone just needs a little bit more of that. Like you need some compassion for people and compassion for yourself.
Okay, and where can we find your podcast?
My podcast is anywhere you get your podcast. It's on Spotify. It's on Apple Podcast. We also have the video version on YouTube.
Now, I was talking to somebody the other day about like YouTube channels and all that kind of stuff and monetization and stuff like that. Have you been doing it long enough where you hit the monetization? Or are you just launching? What stage are you at?
I talk about this all the time too, because I have episodes that really pop and I have consistent viewer and consistent growth, but the monetization is it's like a black box. Like I don't really see where, I have shows that I've been on that are smaller than mine that have sponsorships. And then I've been on shows that are much larger that don't have sponsorships. And it's hard to figure that out. I haven't figured out where you hit monetization yet. I've heard when it's consistently 1,000 downloads an episode, you can start to get sponsorship deals, but that's, vague in someone's opinion. I don't think there's any, that's the weird thing about podcasts. Like it's not very lucrative. I posted about this on my Instagram yesterday because it is something that, requires time, preparation, editing, all of that stuff. And you really have to invest consistently before you can hit any type of monetization, but that's costly. So it's a weird line to toe, I think. What about you?
Well, as far as this podcast, we're it was something I suggested to our executive director, Gary Rifkin, just to expand the platform of the service we provide. City Tutors, for anybody just joining us and not familiar, City Tutors, we're a not-for-profit startup and we provide free tutoring and mentorship to typically underserved communities. And our biggest client base is from the CUNY system, the City University of New York. So we have thousands of students from Hunter College, Lehman College, Baruch, Queensborough, Kingsborough, Hostos, that community. And they are current college students or recent grads. But we also, with our tutoring, we service anywhere from 5 to 55, anywhere from 6 to 66 on almost any topic. English is a second language and all that kind of stuff. So we are not a for-profit entity. So if we, lucked up and went viral or something to that effect, or got a sponsor, well, everybody's sponsored. All of our relationships are sponsored because, we work with volunteers, and even, some of our volunteers might, write a check and donate. But most everyone is donating their time. And we value that so much because time is something you can't get back. You can make more money, but you can't make more time. So all that being said, from the host of the show's perspective, I have made no inquiries on the financial side because I'm here for a different purpose. We're here for a different type purpose. Right. But the reason I think it's relevant is because the clientele that we cater to, the young college students, young people are all trying to be millionaires, all trying to be social, trying to be millionaires and retire by 30. They're trying to be social media influencers. And that's a ecosystem that didn't exist when I was their age. There was no internet. There was no YouTube. You couldn't monetize that. You had to go and get a job at Wendy's and McDonald's and bring home a paycheck. It was a whole nother beast. But just to get insight from someone who does it, that's actually what we were talking about. Why it came up with the other day about bringing in people who know what that 18-year-old may not know. How much does a microphone cost? I look at that microphone right now, and I just at a glance, it looks like it costs a couple $100. That microphone could go for $1,000. It looks very high quality. But a young person needs to know that. Do you need the best microphone? Do you need the best equipment? Do you have to have, all those types of things are the things that I recognize that young people are interested in.
Well, that's super interesting. I will say what I would say to anyone who wants to start podcasting, or anyone who wants to start influencing. I have a couple hundred. I have 330,000 followers on Instagram. I got them very uniquely. So I'm kind of learning as I go. And what I would say to them is the thing that you can do, just do it. So if you want to start a podcast, pull up your computer, use your phone if you have to, earbuds if you have them, phone microphone in a quiet space if you don't, and just say your piece. And I would say the same thing about content on social media. If you overthink it, you're going to paralyze yourself into not doing anything. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Authenticity comes across and will help you so much more with what you're doing. There's one video that I remember I was shooting for myself, promoting my podcast, and mid time, my phone fell over. And I picked it up and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to leave that in there because people need to know I'm real too. And sometimes my phone falls over when I'm recording. So I think like those types of things, it's important to just show up and be authentic. And your content should be content that you would be making or something you would be doing anyway, not something you're doing additional for followers. So that would be my advice. Like equipment, great. Make some money with your content. Buy yourself a little bit of a better microphone. Just get it out there. Be yourself and figure out what your niche is and figure out who you want to be in real life and then transfer that to social media because you'll find people that follow you, that want to get to know you, that are with you for the ride.
Yeah. So Nick, you said, did I hear you correctly? Did you say 330,000 Instagram followers?
Yeah, that's right. That's
not easy to get. That's impossible. How did you do that? Everybody froze when you said that, and I'm here by myself, and all of us froze. How did you get 330,000 followers on Instagram?
I was a contestant on Netflix reality show Love is Blind, and yeah. So as part of the main cast, you literally like wake up one day and you just have it. So that's what I should have elaborated that. That's what I meant when I was saying earlier, I kind of fell into it. So I didn't know, like if you look at my social media pre that Netflix show, I had, I think 317 followers and I had about 10 pictures of my dog. And so I wasn't very active on social media. I was more of a LinkedIn kind of guy. With my professional career as a VP in marketing. So I didn't have all of that and I had to learn, and I'm still learning who I am on social media. But what I have been consistent in is just being myself. I'm a nuanced human being. I'm a marketing executive, reality person. I'm, a mental health advocate. I'm a podcast host. I like scary movies. And sometimes I watch WWE. And I'll talk about all of this stuff as it happens because people relate to that. We're all nuanced. And that's what my audience likes. They like that there's like quirks to me that I'll share, that I'll advocate for something, that I don't just push endless products out there. So that's why like being authentic is the best way to be on social media because people can sense it out. They really do sniff it out.
That's dope, man. So yeah, you didn't have to say it up front because we're having a whole conversation. It was gonna come out when it came out, and it came out organically. So I appreciate that. So being on a reality show, what was that like?
Oh man, look, it feels like a different life. When I think back about it, it doesn't even feel like it's real at this point. It's hard to. It's almost hard to go back. So what I did for mine was I was in like the best mental space, professional space, everything that I could possibly be in. And going on that show, like you think, and people have a huge misconception about a lot of things in reality TV. And one of them is, some of them they're onto, like there's editing, all that stuff. But one of the things that I don't think people really realize is how much pressure there is throughout the entire process to change. And there is no real monetization if you don't do it yourself. So what I mean by that is we're not rich. I'm actually currently on the job market and there's no Brinks truck that backs up every week from Netflix saying, here's your pile of cash. It doesn't work like that. You're still a normal person. But the toll that it takes going into a show and really deciding whether or not you are going to get married, it's a lot of pressure. And the whole thing's just a giant pressure cooker where you're just making, life-altering decisions in front of a bunch of cameras, and you're making them in timelines that are so unrealistic to normal life that it's just a lot of pressure. And then there's the pressure to change, as I mentioned earlier, that comes with it as well. Post show, I was advised by PR people to not talk about news and politics. It's too dividing. Keep it high level and positive on mental health, and don't really get too much into like your holistic DIY stuff, because that's such a niche little audience and you have too big of a following for that. And I'm like, so don't be me, because those are like the most important things to me. So it was just like that. That's why I decided, shortly after that, I went on a news show on YouTube and I talked about politics, and then I started talking about mental health and self-care and, making sure you make time for yourself and your other connections in your life. And, do I have 1 million followers? No. Could I have? Maybe, if I sold out. But that again, it like all comes back to the pressure to change. And this is like my big takeaway from all of it is I stayed myself the whole time. I never wavered on what I believed in. I never tried to fake being a celebrity. I just stayed true to myself, and that keeps people engaged on social media, to bring it back to that too. And you have the right people following you, and not people that are there expecting something that you're not.
Okay, so this game show or reality show, did they seek you out? Did you sought after them? How'd you get connected to it?
So this is another question I get a lot, because a lot of people are surprised that I was on the show, because I'm not like most reality TV personalities. And they actually recruited me off of LinkedIn, which makes sense, because I said earlier, that's where I was my most active. And I got a in-mail or a private message, DM, whatever you want to call it, asking me if I was single and if I'd be interested in it. I've never watched reality TV. It's not really my thing. I'm more of like I'll watch a good show or a documentary or something like that. And I went and watched the show and I was like, oh, like this isn't like other reality TV shows. And so I just started going through the casting process. And next thing I know, I'm like getting a phone call. I'm on Grand Avenue right here in Chicago. And they're like, you've been cast. Here's when you leave. Do you have any questions? And I'm like, is it weird that I can't think of any questions? And they're like, no, you're probably in shock, but give us a call back if you have any. And it was like literally maybe a 3-minute conversation. I'm sitting there walking down Grand Avenue and I'm like, is this real? Is this real? Like, is this really going to happen? And then next thing I know, there I am.
Cool, man. So tell us about let's unpack Nick Thompson. Where you are from Chicago, born and raised?
I was born and raised in the suburbs of Chicago. I've lived in the city proper for about 10 years now.
And public school, private school?
So I went to a private school from 2nd grade through 8th grade, which was a Catholic school, the same one that my dad and aunts and uncles went to, and the church that we were a part of. And then I went to a public high school after that.
What was that like, going from private to public?
Oh my gosh. So great question. I think about this a lot because I went from seeing the same 18 to 22 people from 2nd grade through 8th grade in my class. Everybody in the whole school pretty much knows everybody. And then the first day I walk into Rolling Meadows High School, which is where I went, same as Jimmy Garoppolo. So I think I'm like, yeah. And it's, who else? Oh, Gary Cole too, from Office Space. Yep. You probably know him. Yeah. So I think I'm like the 3rd most famous person to come out of my high school now. And then there's
Gary Cole. Gary Cole is on NCIS. He took what you call this play? Yeah, Gary Cole. I like him.
Yeah.
He became the VP on West Wing, one of my favorite shows of all times. And he was running for president against my guy. What's the Latino Victor Cifuentes from LA? Anyway, this is way too much of a tangent. But
no, it's fun.
Excuse me. Anyway, I was coughing. I was choking on it.
But yeah, so walking into high school, my first day too, in the public school, one of the first, I think it might've been my first class. So it's 1,800 people in this school. Right. And then the first day, and I'm coming from Catholic school, they announced that one of the students who was a sophomore his body was found in like the local forest preserve. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, I didn't get exposed to anything like that in a Catholic school. And so I was just like shell shocked from first day, first class, hearing that a student was murdered. And it's just like, holy cow. And so that, and the classes and all the people and, all people from Catholic schools like dispersed, into different schools. So I didn't have a lot of people that I went to school with. It was very, very, very challenging.
Okay. And I forgot to mention Jimmy Garoppolo is probably the sexiest man alive. So
it's like not fair.
So
I mean, at his worst, the guy looks amazing.
Oh, incredible! But I'm a fan. I'm a fan of his. So yeah, so you're in good company. All right. So you finish high school. You do what?
So I finished high school, and I was going to be a filmmaker, and I was going to go to Columbia College here in Chicago. I had no idea what I was doing. No one from my family went to school or went to college. So I was really navigating these waters by myself. And I chose Columbia because it was close, but not super close because it was downtown. So I'd have to take the train every day. And I went there for orientation and I didn't feel like it was the space for me. And I really rely a lot on my intuition and my gut. And my gut just kept telling me like, I don't think you're supposed to be here. And so what I ended up doing instead is going to a local community college. And I worked with my English professor to build an independent study where I would make a movie. So I was getting kind of creative in the way that I was going to learn how to do this stuff. And I started going to school for teaching. Then I switched over to marketing after taking a marketing class that I really enjoyed. And my degree took a little longer to finish because I was funding this myself, didn't really know how loans worked. So I paid for all of my associate's degree at the community college, like out of pocket and working full time while I was making movies and on the newspaper. And so I learned to hustle a little bit there. And then I went and finished my degree online at Full Sail University with my degree in business and have been working in marketing mostly since then.
One of my lifelong buddies, teaches at Full Sail. So,
oh, nice.
Yeah. So cool. So you said you've been working in marketing ever since?
Yeah. And I graduated at 25 because I had to stop and go a few times just based on financial stuff. So I had a couple marketing jobs in between while working, while in school, but it wasn't really until after that I kind of just really got into marketing full steam.
Right. Okay. So, now you are a marketing whiz. You are a filmmaker. You are
retired filmmaker, I think.
A retired filmmaker. Okay. Has anyone seen your movie?
So yeah, I screened them at the college when they first came out. If you really look hard, you can probably find some of my short films on the internet, but I don't promote them because there's better technology on your phone right now than I was spending thousands of dollars to pay for and rent.
Yeah.
15 years ago. So it's kind of like, even when I watch them now, I'm like, oh gosh, the quality on my phone is better than that $5,000 camera I financed on a credit card when I was 19.
Yeah, that's horrible. But I tell you, man, we're in a world of repurposing, right? We repurpose gifts, right? Mm-hmm. When they make movies, they make another movie 30 years later. It's something about unknown Nick Thompson making a movie and reality star Nick Thompson reflecting on, you might consider going and tracking down all of your work and repackaging it and doing a retrospective of yourself because, nobody cared. And then one day people care and they might, it might be interesting to see what young Nick Thompson was thinking back in the day.
That's so interesting. And that reminds me of this story too. So I was in 8th grade, right? In my 22, I think there was actually 18 of us that graduated from St. Colette. I was voted most likely to be famous in our yearbook. And why was that? it was going to be the filmmaking or that I wanted to be a WWE wrestler when I was younger. So they were they were convinced one of those two things was going to happen for me. And when the show came out about a year ago, I got someone I haven't talked to since probably graduation day sent me a picture of the yearbook saying most likely to be famous. And she said, see, she's like, see, we all knew. It's just funny what it's for. But I love that idea. And I should do like a little watch along or something and just comment on.
Why not, man? Why not? Content, that content is king, right? Content is king. So why not? Why not just go for it? Now, all that being said, wait, first of all, have you ventured out in your story? I didn't hear you ventured out of Chicago yet. Have you ventured out of Chicago? When you said that you got the call for the reality show, you said now you got to go. Where'd you go?
So yeah, we went to we filmed in LA, Mexico, and then back in Chicago. So the whole cast was cast from Chicago. I travel, but every time I'm always like, I love Chicago. That's actually one of my things too, is I always love to share what I'm doing in Chicago, and people message me all the time asking me for advice and where to go. And I love being a tour guide. So I just love this city. I almost moved to Austin a few years back, more than a few years now, like 7 years ago, because I was going after a job at IBM. And when it became closer and closer, I was just kind of like, why do I like Austin so much? Because it reminds me of Chicago. So why not go to like the Ritz to stay in the real thing?
Okay. So,
well, where do you think should I go live somewhere else?
No, just when I hear about people's professional journey, mind you, I've traveled a bit in my life, but I'm fascinated by the people who are in the ecosystem of city tutors, right? Mm. There's something happened to me after the pandemic. During the pandemic, I caught coronavirus. I was fighting for my life for 90 days, but I didn't know. Oh my gosh. When you're about to die, you don't know you're about to die until somebody tells you, hey, I'm a doctor and you're about to die. You don't know. But I remember when I was sick and I was watching the news and everybody was dying, everybody. And it was so scary. I'm getting texts that we just lost another friend. On. Yeah. I had it March. I woke up on March 23rd with a cough. It was just a cough. And a little mucus came up, and I called my doctor that morning. And I said, Doctor, I woke up with a cough. And she said, okay, you're quarantined. And I said, how are you going to quarantine me? Nobody tested me. You don't even know what this is. And you didn't even ask me who I was. You didn't even say, hello, who's calling? She just said you're quarantined. So, but it was so early on, nobody knew anything about this sickness. 3 or 4 days later, I couldn't even get out of bed.
Oh my gosh.
And
you had all the symptoms, I'm assuming.
I had and I check off all the boxes. I'm a man of a certain age. I'm type 2 diabetic. I was everything. And I had 7 days where I froze. No matter how many blankets I was wearing, I was freezing. And I had days where I was sweating. No matter how much I turned the air conditioner on, I'm sweating for 7 days. One day I fell. I was on the way to the bathroom and I fell on the floor. I just collapsed on the floor. And I must have laid there for a day because nobody was visiting. My family would visit to bring me food, bring me supplies, but nobody came in the house.
And in hazmat suits at that point, I'm sure they were. Oh,
it was like they were sliding the food through the prison cell door. That little slide. They were sliding and they gone.
But I imagined it.
Yeah, but it was rough. So when I came out on the other side, the things that used to be important to me were no longer important. Now I bring that up because in my career, if anybody Googles me, if you Google me, you'll find out I worked with the tops of Hollywood, right? The A-list, the triple A-list, the super A-list. I work with everybody. But the people on the front line are the people that surround themselves with volunteerism. Volunteerism is on the rise. City Tutors is on the come up. And I just love people who recognize their blessings and take time out of their life to pay it forward and help someone else. I think that's so important. And I have so much respect for people like that. And so when I hear about, your journey, we started this interview totally different from how I typically start it. You mentioned your podcast, and I want to talk about your podcast. Because just by hearing what your podcast is about, I'm learning more about you. Right.
And what's important.
So, yeah. So I dig it. So you said people reach out to you for advice. Now, imagine, yes. So imagine, here's your audience. Your audience is college students, right? Whether they went to a private Catholic elementary school or a public high school, or, whether they went to school on a farm or in a one-room schoolhouse, they're in college. They were in an academic bubble, and then they're getting ready to go out into the real world. What advice do you have? What's the best advice you have for someone like that?
I would say, first of all, show yourself some gratitude for finishing whatever schooling that you were doing, because it is not easy and it requires self-discipline, whether you're in in it full time and you've got a full ride or whatever it is, or you're going part-time. And I'm actually back in school now part-time to get my master's. So, I'm trying to navigate all that. So I know it's hard. So congratulate yourself, and then realize that you're going to learn more in your first role, and you're going to learn more about the relationships that you build in real life and the relationship with yourself. You're going to learn more from that, and how you show up in your job, and how you show up in your volunteerism, how you show up in the world. Let's just say you will learn more by doing than you will anything else. I don't think I learned anything in college that I applied at my first job. And I think back to things that I was doing in school, and I learned so much more in my first job, probably first 2-3 months of my first job, just about how it all works together, how everything comes together in the real world, where, you've got bills and finances and why you work, and do you care about what you do, and how do you give back or pay it forward. And, that's super important to me too. But I feel like everybody really just needs to take the advice of connect with yourself, be yourself, and let the world come to you, because you will learn by doing and just going through life, being yourself, being true to yourself.
Excellent. Outstanding. Okay. So that was advice.
And I always say too, I always say I meandered in my 20s. I didn't know what I was doing. I had no clue. I was trying to, I let the world happen to me instead of, or I let things happen to me instead of, making things happen for me. And so I think that's why I say just connect with yourself and go forward, because otherwise you'll just find yourself sort of meandering around, not really knowing who you are, or what you care about, or what you're passionate about, or what you want to do with your life, or how you want to give back. Because once those things all align, you can really put together a nice life for yourself.
So yeah, you threw that in, but I was about to ask you something to that effect. So when you find yourself meandering, do you know you're meandering while it's happening? Does somebody shake you and say, stop meandering? How do you break out of that?
That's such a great thing to think about. I know when I am now. So because I've put in a lot of work on myself through therapy, through self-exploration, through figuring out what I value in life, and, doing, having structure in place to support my well-being, to support my relationships with others, letting other people that aren't good for me, go away. And when I was in my 20s, I had no idea that I had all these toxic relationships. I had toxic friendships. I had toxic relationships with my family, and definitely a toxic relationship with myself. And I had no idea until I look back on it now. And I'm like, oh, if I would have removed this person from my life at this point, I would have felt a heck of a lot better about this. And so I think once you feel lost, or you feel, I remember my feeling was I felt disconnected. I felt disconnected from what I was doing every day in work. I felt disconnected from having real relationships and real conversations. I wasn't talking about the things that mattered to me. I was talking gossiping and doing all sorts of, stupid stuff that you do in your 20s. But if you feel that disconnect, if you feel like something's missing, that's when you got to start like looking internal and stop looking external. So I think that would be like my advice. But like, as it was happening in my 20s, no clue. I just know I had these feelings of like feeling disconnected and like I wasn't living my purpose.
Absolutely. Did you ever need a mentor growing up?
So that helped actually. Did I have one? Did you say?
Yeah. Did you ever have one, need one?
So my life changed when I did find one, which was very weird. I was working at an AT&T store and I helped this gentleman, his name's Mark. I helped his wife with something on her phone, and he came in and they thanked me and we became friends, and he is very successful in his career. Multiple side hustles. And, I think it's unfortunate when people have to have like side hustles to pay their bills and put bread on the table. But he was older, and he kind of took me under his wing and was like, here's how it is in business. Here's how it is. Like, here's the types of jobs you should be looking for. And always so supportive and pushing me to think bigger and pushing me to look at these things in a way that I wasn't looking at them, like to see the bigger picture of what I wanted for my career. And so to this day, I mean, I just had dinner with him and his wife on Friday. So it's been about 10 years. And he's been really good for my career on helping me sort of navigate the business world.
Well, outstanding.
Makes a huge difference.
Yeah, outstanding. And I want to say kudos to you on going back for your master's degree. Congratulations on that. I'm doing the same thing. I actually went back to school.
Oh, good for you.
I'm by June, I'll be 15 credits in on a 30 credit master's program. So it's definitely an adventure. So I can relate. How far along are you?
I actually just so I got laid off in November, and that was when I decided I'm going to once again like reimagine myself. Mm-hmm. What do I want to be doing? And so I actually just started. I'm on week 4 right now, so I don't have any credits left, and I'm doing a bridge course. So
let me tell you something, Nick. So I hate the concept of any student paying for school. If you come from money bags, if you got it, pay, spend it. Okay, fine. But I don't think it should cost so much to get an education in America, right? I have a problem with that. So I went back to school, and I was trying to find every way I can to not have to pay out of pocket for school. So I joined the student government. I am the chair, the executive chair, which is the president of my grad student council. And we get a stipend to help our fellow students. And that stipend pretty much covers me for the semester, covers my tuition. So, there are creative ways to, make yourself involved and get that tuition, because I don't care. And like your mentor, I'm big on multiple streams of income, man. Mm-hmm. When the pandemic hit, and as an actor, it was a wrap for us. There was no more auditions.
Oh yeah.
No more, no more jobs. You couldn't go on set. It was crazy. So the income ceased. And I look for every revenue stream I could find. I became a notary public. I still have my notary card. I never let it go. I became a certified driving instructor. I never taught a lesson, but I went and got my certificate, and I never let it go. I went and got a TLC license, taxi and limousine, so I could drive taxi. I haven't done that. I haven't done it, but I never let my stuff go in case there's another collapse. Right. You're not going to stop Kevin Brown from making money if you fire me. Fire me all you want. I'll just put my energy into something else. So, that's my recommendation. Multiple revenue streams.
Yeah, I would encourage that to everyone too, and try and get some of these like passive income opportunities that you have. Like, one thing, so I'm very particular about the types of brands and companies that I'll partner with for content, because I have integrity, and I don't want to compromise my like my belief system for money. And so, some of the things that you can do is go find an affiliate link and then sign yourself up to be an affiliate for a brand or a company you like, and then just promote that brand and you get yourself a little bit of passive income. There's so many other things. Like I do consulting calls on my industry because I'm an expert in this industry. So if someone wants to talk, you can make some money that way. Just find your expertise and put it to work. What I really like about what you said though, which is so important for your brain health and your mental health, continue to learn. And you are going into getting all these different certifications, and you're learning skill sets that you may never apply. You may never drive a taxi, but at some point you stimulated your brain by doing that. And now you can talk to people about it too.
Well, I'm a stand-up comic, and I just went back to stand-up after. It took me a minute to stabilize my fear of academia, right? Going back to college after so long, the technology, the way you deliver your papers is something it's unheard of. I was
like software now that checks if you've plagiarized. Like, where the heck was that?
And then here's the thing that just shook up. This is shaking up academia as we speak. That AI technology.
I just wrote about it on LinkedIn right before we hopped on here.
Let me tell you, man. So I just heard about it. Somebody told me about it a week ago, 2 weeks ago. It's brand new. Okay, it's new to the public. My school, the City University of New York, CUNY system, it's 25 campuses, 500,000 students, about 12,000, 13,000 professors. Last week, they sent an email to all the professors talking about this AI technology. Apparently, you can say to this AI, write me a paper on XYZ, and it'll instantly print out a paper. And academia has no idea how to respond. Mm-mm. They're shook right now. Absolutely shook. Now, I came to school to learn. I'll take some things easy. I'll drive instead of walk. Okay. I'll take the escalator instead of taking the steps. But for my academic adventure, I want to learn. I want to master what I'm taking these classes for. But if I were younger and if I were, a different mindset, I would probably use that AI to write my thesis paper if I didn't have time. But I'm telling you right now, as we speak, the academic community is scrambling how to respond to this.
I agree. It's a completely different game changer. And I don't know how no one saw this coming, because I feel like 5 years ago, I was talking about how, there's software now that'll automate a marketing campaign. When is it going to start automating the ads? When is it going to start optimizing the ads using AI and machine learning? And then when is my job irrelevant? And so when it comes to academia, they're always kind of a little bit behind on some of the technology stuff, but to not even have any position other than don't do it. There was a study that came out maybe a month ago that it was at Harvard, and something like 17, I wish I remembered this, something like 17% of people that turned in a term paper just literally copied it from ChatGPT and pasted it in. A lot of them did editing, and I've used it. And this is one of the things my LinkedIn talks about is it's not perfect, but it's good enough that you can copy and paste, and then you can edit to make it sound like it's more your voice. And so instead of spending, 2 hours on a 600 word or 6-page paper, you can maybe spend 1 hour editing it.
Right.
So it's not perfect, but it's very scary how good it is.
And I was debating with somebody because I said, I was just talking. I'm not trying to judge. I was just talking to somebody, and I said, I didn't go back to school to cheat. And the person I was talking to said, well, technically that's not cheating. It's just using technology because it prints out something, and all you have to, then you take it and and I'm like, I didn't think about that. Is it cheating? I don't know.
I think so. My personal approach, and I'm with you. I'm kind of like, is it cheating? Like, is it cheating to use a calculator on your phone now when you used to do it in your head? You know what I mean? So my take on it is, I think it's a good prompt. And I love a good writing prompt. And I think if people use it that way and you maybe get some of your thoughts from it, I think that's great. If you are literally copying and pasting a paper, I think you're doing yourself a disservice. That's what I think. Because your point, like, are you here to learn, or are you here to get a certificate that says you can do something that you really can't do without AI?
Right. Yeah, that's the question, and it's early on. It's early on. Who knows how they're going to respond? But I applaud you for being on the front lines of your journey. I'm on the front lines of mine, so we are like-minded in that way. But keep up the great work, man. And I didn't even mean to keep you this long, but thank you so much for joining me. What's the name of your podcast again?
It's Conversations with Nick Thompson, and you can find it anywhere. It's a great show. Like, I've had all sorts of doctors and experts in their field come on and share information that I just don't think you're getting if you're not looking for it. But it's important.
Do you promote that you are from this show? What's the name of it again? Love is Blind?
Yeah, Love is Blind.
Do you promote that are you proud of your attachment to that show?
So I got married on the show and recently got divorced. There's there's the feelings and the healing going on from all of that. But what I do like to promote, and when I do like to talk about it, I like to talk about what I said earlier, which is I'm very proud of myself because I didn't waver. And I look around and I see all these people now in the reality TV world, and a lot of them struggle with their mental health. A lot of them struggle with like who they are post show and and probably struggled before show too. So like I'm proud of staying true to myself. I'm proud of being myself coming out of it. But it was, it's been a hard couple years. It's been a very, I've grown a lot, but it's tough. Reality shows are tougher than people think.
Well, Nick,
and then the instant overnight fame too. You got like adjusting to that. You're shell shocked.
Nick, let me say something, man. You're not a superhero, okay? It's not your job to carry the burdens of the world on your shoulders. Somebody told me this, a gentleman in one of the interviews, Alan Herskowitz. I never met him in person. I interviewed him on our podcast, and I consider him my mentor now. He gave me advice that brought me to tears. But the bottom line is, there's certain problems that we'll never solve, that'll never be solved in our lifetime. All we can do is try to push the boulder forward, right? Now, that being said, when you get the opportunity, the blessing to be on a reality show, and that window of opportunity is open for you, and you get your 15 minutes of fame, put all that other stuff aside. And if you get an offer to have a sponsor for your podcast, take that offer. Forget the other stuff about I don't want to because I want to. Listen, man. Listen, take the offer, enjoy your opportunities, live your life, and keep fighting the great fight, Nick, man. It was an absolute pleasure meeting you and talking to you. And thank you so much for your time, man.
It's my pleasure completely. Thank you for having me on and having such a genuine conversation. I really appreciate those.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Keep it up. Keep up the good work. Conversations with Nick Thompson. Check it out.